Polyrhythmia. This is how the world resonates. A podcast where music reveals the faces of society and its multiple identities. Global music, local tunes, and shared experiences. This podcast is available on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, or your preferred podcast platform. On Spotify, you can find an interactive playlist with all the songs we'll feature during this episode. Remember to follow us on social media, Polyrhythmia Pod on Twitter or Somos Polyrhythmia on Instagram. We invite you as well to answer the question we will ask at the end of the episode in the comment section. Welcome and greetings. In today's episode, Music in Times of War, a conversation from Ukraine with Yulia Piskorska. As we have seen in previous episodes, music plays a key role in shaping societies and humanity. That's why today's episode about music and war in Ukraine begins with a very interesting and enjoyable conversation we had with Yulia Piskorska, a 25-year-old Ukrainian woman who loves music and works as an educational consultant, project coordinator, and coach. Yulia was born in Lutsk, a city in western Ukraine, but currently resides in Kiev. She studied international relations at the university, and her professional experience lies in adult education and project coordination. Clearly, in deeply challenging times like the ongoing war in Ukraine for over a year, music plays a crucial role in the moral and identity of the people, as well as in shaping many of their symbols, beliefs, and narratives. Join us in understanding from the Ukrainian perspective what can happen with music in a war scenario and what music can tell us about a society living in such a context.
Ой, у лузі червона калина похилилася, чогось наша славна Україна.
This song has a great historical meaning because it's an old song. It has been modified throughout the history like 1,000 times. So let me talk a bit about the history. So this song was created, or the story goes that this song was created by Cossacks. That's the free-spirited communities that lived on the territory of Ukraine, and they are known for their patriotism and military craft. So, as I said, they were super patriotic and they fought a lot for independence, and they created this song. But then this song was rewritten. Oh, so that was in the 17th century or so. But then the song was rewritten in the 20th, in the end of the 19th, 20th century. And it was also used by the certain social political groups that existed on the territory in Ukraine. And those groups that had the idea of making Ukraine independent because Ukraine was a part of Soviet Union. And basically those social political groups, they just had the idea of, again, fighting for independence. And they used this song that was their symbol of Ukrainian, spirit. And in the very first days of the war, one of the quite known musicians here, he's the vocalist of the band called Boombox. So he joined the armed forces of Ukraine, and he recorded himself, or he was recorded, wearing his military clothes next to the Saint Sophia Cathedral. That's a famous monument here in Kiev.
Sharing an unique and unrepeatable language with certain people creates a profound construction of national identity because it involves a way of communication and that is only understood among us and excludes, in a random or arbitrary way, many millions of other people. That's why it's also essential to take care and to construct collective speeches that we share within a group of people who inhabit the same territory. These speeches, for example, materialize in songs like the one we just heard called "O Red Viburnum in the Meadow," which sings the following phrases.
In the meadow, a red viburnum has bent down. Our glorious Ukraine has been so troubled, and we will take that red viburnum and raise it up. And we, our glorious Ukraine, will rise up. Hey, hey, and rejoice. And we will take that red viburnum and raise it up.
Just a few years ago, Ukraine's creative industries were heavily dominated by content and speeches in Russian.
Russian, but I understand Russian because of the TV. Because when Ukraine became independent, the country economically was struggling a lot. And I think that there was not enough resource to create its own content. So a lot of content was taken from the Russian TV. We had a lot of Russian influences. And thus this way, without even studying the language, we could learn the language by just watching, by just consuming the content.
During the current war period, significant historical transformations have emerged in Ukraine, such as a stronger reclamation of their own language, Ukrainian, something that is now reflected within their own music industry. This industry ensures broad dissemination, which is vital for conveying the symbolic message and the importance of consciously consuming music in Ukrainian instead of listening to it in Russian.
There are definitely certain trends in Ukrainian music that are produced by war or inspired by the current events. First of all, the language. The lyrics now are mostly in Ukrainian, because before, I think we might talk about that later, because before a Ukrainian artist would create music, some in Ukrainian, but a lot of them would create music in Russian language.
The musical scene between Russia and Ukraine has a long history, and their relationship has been affected by their shared past, particularly during the Soviet Union times, when Russia was the major center for both music industries until recent years.
So since Ukraine became independent in 1991, and before even when Ukraine was a part of Soviet Union, there was always sort of Ukrainian music industry. But it didn't officially exist. There were just Ukrainian performers who would perform in Ukrainian language. They wouldn't really be popular, but there was some sort of an industry, let's put it this way. And then even after the independence, the Ukraine became independent from the Union, still our market would be more dominated by the Russian artists. And I say that Ukrainian and Russian artists would travel back and forth. And also, if you were a Ukrainian musician, your success would be defined whether or not you are popular in Russia. So if you are popular in Russia, it means you're successful, because you would be popular in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and all the other countries who were influenced by the Soviet Union. A lot of Ukrainian musicians would create music in Russian language for obvious reasons, so that they are understood on the Russian market.
Since 2014, Ukraine has taken actions and implemented laws to strengthen and promote its independence in this field. One of the laws required all TV channels and radio stations to have a percentage of content in Ukrainian, promoting the creation of content in their own language. Another law established that the Russian artists who supported the Russian government would be expelled, along with their songs, from Ukraine with no return.
Ukrainian music industry was dominated by the Russian musicians. Now it was not anymore. So there was a lot of fresh air and space for the young Ukrainian musicians that could not start their career before. Now they could. So starting 2014 and until now, the the music industry of Ukraine became developed very rapidly.
As you can hear, the music scene in the country is experiencing exponential and promising growth, allowing for new genres, artists, styles, and connections between Ukrainian audiences and their artists. Moreover, it is writing memorable pages in its national and universal history through productions, songs, and sounds. Some songs literally portray diverse realities, while others use them as a source of inspiration.
Ти питав мене, чи буду вірити в людей.
That's why we also believe it is essential to stop and talk about the importance of music in spreading messages among a group of people who try to coexist, whether in person or not, in the same territory. Songs are filled with stories, words, urban or rural imagery, values, characters, and ideals that are internalized by the people who listens to them, sings them, and reproduce or share them, whether consciously or unconsciously. And precisely the diversity that flourishes in the souls of the artists gets reflected on multiple moods or mindsets that emerge daily in the Ukrainian people. So
I can imagine that you create music that is inspired by the events that happen in your life, or by the circumstances you are in. So that's why the lyrics are mostly focused on war in a way. But I would say that there are the songs that have a goal to lift the spirit up. They are sort of this songs about heroes, or just the songs that send the message of support and being optimistic, or also talking about the glorious past and things in the history that had positive footprint on the Ukrainian development. Or there are songs that tell the reality the way it is. Especially some of the Ukrainian musicians, since the very first days of the war, they joined the military forces. So they have experienced the war, the battlefield firsthand. So now when they come back to the studio, obviously they reflect their experiences in their music.
Потрібно взяти паузу, зробити вдих, закрити браузер. Слова уміють пробивати тіло, наче маузер. Люди не страуси, якщо ти не ховаєш голову в пісок. Зустрінемось з плакатом у руках біля СІЗО. Ми бачимось своїми тільки під судами.
For me personally, as for Ukrainian, it's had like a therapeutical effect, because as I said before, musicians, I think, create music based on their experiences. And for us, we've had a similar experience. We've had similar feelings in this situation. And when I listen to the songs that were created in this year, especially the ones who are more melancholic, I just feel like, more united, like I can relate to these songs.
in this current scenario of Ukraine, the infinite power of music to nurture a national identity and to awake patriotism allows people to identify with the slogans that defend the legitimate political autonomy, the right of a nationhood, peace, and sovereignty of a population of 36 million people.
And it's my perspective as of Ukrainian. It's just that, okay, we are united as never before. I know that the price is very high, but we all in Ukraine have the same goal. And we even joke that at New Year's night, there is a thing that you cannot share the wish you're making. In New Year's night, we were like, you don't have to share it. I know, we all want the same thing. We all want this war to end. And Ukrainian musicians have united and have collaborate a lot and generally work together to spread the message, to gain more support, to gain more donations.
In fact, this impetus has been strongly demonstrated in many battles throughout the universal history. National identity has always been a contested, reclaimed, and unifying element amidst conflicts, whether international or within the same state. This was evident, for example, between Finland and Russia during World War II, or historically in cases such as Japan, the Balkans, India, and Pakistan, or many conflicts arising from World War I or the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire. On the other hand, the entire apparatus of today's international music industry also plays a significant role in this situation because it becomes a global platform where Ukrainian artists represent their people, convey messages of support or hope, and call for peace and assistance for their country.
You know, music has been a good instrument in drawing more attention to Ukraine to gain more support. And it is probably one of the key elements in communicating with the foreign audience about the events. And it's not about the music as it is, but also about the decisions the Ukrainian musicians make, the platforms where they perform. For example, I don't know if you're familiar with the artist, it's NK, Anneka. It's short from Nastia Kamenskih, and she actually she released an album in Spanish years ago, and she's been trying to get to Latin music industry for a few years now. And she was given an award at Latin Grammy Awards last year.
Cada nación tiene derecho a vivir independientemente. Cada ciudad.
Every nation has the right to live in independence. Every city has the right to live safely. All of us have the right to live beneath a peaceful sky. We all have the right to happiness and freedom. And that's why Ukraine is fighting now. We cannot allow that cities disappear and that lives of victims become statistics. Please don't allow the Ukrainian war to become a normal scenario. The war has no place in the modern world. I beg you not to forget about my country. Talk about it, support it in what you can, because freedom now has another name. Freedom is Ukraine.
She was included in the performance of Black Eyed Peas, Farruko, Ozuna, and Ciencio, and others. It was the bit they did on Ukraine. So that was nice, the platforms like this where Ukrainian artists can just, send the message and share their music, but mostly just send the message asking for support.
During the Latin American Music Awards ceremony, Nastia, or NK, also mentioned the powerful force of connection that music generates.
Maluma filled an enormous stadium in Kiev, where I had the chance to open his concert and to see his fans singing with him. Rosalia filmed her video in Kiev, and she worked with an Ukrainian production. Bad Bunny, Los Chicos listen to your music when they are in the car. They don't understand even a word, but they feel good. So good in that moment, because music doesn't have borders.
Another example is the call made by Kalush at Eurovision 2022, when the first aerial and maritime bombings hit Ukraine. specifically in the port city of Mariupol, known for Azovstal, a giant steel mill in Ukraine.
I ask all of you, please help Ukraine, Mariupol! Help Azovstal right now!
A further aspect in all of this is the presence of social media. TikTok has become an incredible, useful, high-speed vehicle for delivering messages to the Ukrainian population, both within the country and abroad.
Facebook is very popular in Ukraine, and this is where that's the platform that musicians use to make statements and to inform about the new releases. Also YouTube.
Moreover, TikTok serves as a launching pad for many emerging artists who can make their ideas go viral, thanks, among other things, to the new forms of consumption facilitated by the platform.
I have to mention that TikTok does very good job in spreading the music around, because artists these days, they don't really invest a lot in promotion, and that makes sense why, because the different priorities. So TikTok is probably one of the main instruments how the music is spread.
Despite all of this, it is worth emphasizing that Ukraine is much more than what this war portrays to the world. The immense talent that exists there is a clear demonstration of this fact.
So I think that the songs that do become popular abroad, the Ukrainian songs, also send the message that there's more to Ukraine than just war and fighting for independence. There's also good quality product that the interested audience should pay attention to.
There is a resilient setting in Ukraine where music plays a daily role, and these are the small spots or bars where people, even amidst the war, gather to spend time with family or friends and enjoy various live sounds.
It's as normal as before, but it's not really normal. There are some adjustments. It's just important to understand the situation it looks really absurd because, you've seen, I was born in the very peaceful time, and I only learned about the war from the movies. So there's a certain image that you have. But how it happens in 21st century, it's really weird. It's because there is something like front line, in the eastern and southern parts of Ukraine where it's dangerous to be there. But the other parts of Ukraine these days most of the days are okay to be in. It's okay to be in Kiev until there's a missile attack. So once there's a missile attack, you have to hide, you have to take shelter. Once it's over, it's okay. So it works like that. I know it's weird, but I've been here for a year, for more than a year in the country in the state of war. So we just have this coping mechanism where we react pretty normal to that. And for the concert, you would just go. Usually there are certain requirements. First of all, there is a curfew. During the war, there is a curfew. That means that every city has a different curfew. For example, in Kiev, it has just been extended. It's until 12 o'clock. So you cannot be outside throughout the night, but as long as your event finishes earlier than 12 o'clock, and before there was 11 o'clock, it's okay. And also, it has to be in the shelter.
In conclusion, the divorce between the Ukrainian and Russian music industries, or the independence of the Ukrainian industry, brings about a myriad of transformations in both societies. Here, we have addressed some of the changes experienced in Ukraine and sought to highlight the music's power to unite and divide almost simultaneously. However, if you believe that we may have overlooked any essential factor or would like to delve further into any of the points we mentioned, please do not hesitate to share your thoughts in the comment box. The role of music in times of war and social upheaval is complex, and there may be additional aspects and perspectives to explore. Your input and insights are valuable in fostering a more comprehensive understanding of the profound impact of music on society during such a critical period. As we continue to explore and reflect on this topic, we aim to better grasp the broader implications of music in times of conflict and its potential for fostering positive change and resilience within societies. Polyrhythmia is a podcast by Arcadia Sonora, produced with the work and support of Henry Ortega, Diego Bernal, Alejandra Lara, Sofía Ardila, Julián Muñoz Londoño, and myself, Dana Castaño. We will listen to each other the next time. Thank you for resonating with us.